All right, data fans, ready to dive deep. Today, we're tackling data warehouses and tabular cubes. Ever feel like you're drowning in data? But still, can't get those insights you need.
It's a common problem.
Yeah, it's like you have all these puzzle pieces, but no picture to put them together.
Exactly.
That's where data warehouses come in.
Right.
Yeah.
Think of a data warehouse like a giant library for all your business information.
Okay, I like that analogy. A library. So instead of books, it's all your data, no matter where it's originally from. Sales records,
That's
website
right.
traffic, social media, all in one place.
Exactly. And tabular cubes, they're like these special tools inside the warehouse that make analyzing all that data super fast and efficient.
So we're going to unpack all of that today, right?
Mm.
The big picture of data warehousing and then how those tabular cubes actually work.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. So let's dive right in. Our source material breaks down building a data warehouse into these key components.
Yeah.
The first one is data sources. I'm guessing this is where we're talking about, like the raw data itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the foundation of everything. Think of it like the ingredients for a delicious data meal.
Okay, so what kind of ingredients are we talking about here?
Well, it could be anything relevant to your business goals. Sales records, for sure, website activity, marketing data, customer feedback, maybe even external sources like economic trends, to see how those are impacting your business.
So it's not just internal data. It could be anything that helps you understand what's going on.
Right. The more complete the picture, the better.
Makes sense. So we've got all this data pouring in from different places. What happens next? Our source mentions a data staging area. Does the data just kind of hang out there for a bit?
It's more like a prep station than a hangout spot. You see, raw data can be pretty messy.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Inconsistent formats, errors, missing values, all sorts of things that need to be cleaned up before it goes into the warehouse.
So the staging area is like data scrubbing time.
Exactly. You got to make sure the data is accurate and consistent before you can really use it.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Precisely.
So once the data is all cleaned up, what happens next? Our source calls it data integration. Is that where things start getting interesting?
Absolutely. This is where we start connecting the dots, bringing all that data from those different sources together into a unified view.
I see. So it's not just about having all the data in one place. It's about making it all work together.
Exactly. And the key players in this process are ETL tools.
ETL.
Yeah, it stands for extract, transform, load, but like the behind-the-scenes heroes of data integration.
Oh, okay. So these tools take care of the messy work of getting the data ready for prime time.
You got it. They handle tasks like data cleansing, format conversions, applying business rules. It's a crucial step to ensure data quality.
Right. Because bad data leads to bad decisions, no matter how fancy your data warehouse is.
Couldn't agree more.
Speaking of which, where does all this meticulously cleaned and integrated data actually end up? The source calls it data storage, but I'm guessing it's a bit more complex than just like finding a big hard drive.
Oh, definitely. Choosing the right storage solution is a big decision. You have to consider things like the volume of data, how quickly you need to access it, and of course, your budget. There are traditional relational databases, cloud-based solutions, data lakes, all sorts of options to consider.
So you got to pick the right tool for the job.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's say we've got this beautiful, organized data warehouse full of clean, integrated data. Now what? How do we actually get insights from all this information? Our source mentions data retrieval and analysis. What does that involve?
Well, that's where you get to ask your data questions. You use specialized query languages like SQL to essentially have a conversation with your data. You might ask, what are my top-selling products? Or which customer demographics are most likely to buy product X? And the warehouse gives you the answers.
I see. So it's not just storing the data. It's about being able to find the specific information you need when you need it, and then what? Present that information in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. That's where data visualization comes in. Dashboards, reports, things that help you see the patterns and trends hidden in the data.
Okay, this is starting to make a lot of sense. Our source outlines a whole step-by-step process for implementing a data warehouse. Seems like pretty involved.
It can be, yeah. It's not something you just throw together overnight. It's like building a house. You need a solid plan and a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve.
So no cutting corners, meticulous planning is key. What else is important when you're going through this process?
Well, first and foremost, defining your business goals is crucial. What questions do you need this data warehouse to answer? What decisions will it help you make? Once you have that clear, you can start designing the architecture of the warehouse, kind of like creating a blueprint for your data library.
Okay, so a strong foundation. What about like the actual construction process?
Well, data integration, cleansing, and validation are all super important, and that's where those ETL tools we talked about really shine, making sure your data is accurate and reliable. And then, of course, you have the actual implementation, setting up the physical infrastructure, creating smaller data marts for specific departments who need access to particular subsets of data.
Right, like a marketing team might want quick access to all the data related to their campaigns.
Exactly. And of course, throughout the whole process, you need to make sure you're thinking about data security and compliance, especially if you're dealing with sensitive customer information.
Right. Got to keep that data safe.
Absolutely. And finally, thorough testing is essential to ensure that everything is working as it should before you go live.
Wow, that's quite a journey. It sounds like building a data warehouse is a pretty big undertaking. But are there any, like, best practices or shortcuts that could make this whole process a bit less daunting?
Absolutely. There are definitely things you can do to streamline the process and ensure your data warehouse is a success. Well, one of the most important things is aligning your data warehouse with clear business goals right from the start. It's like having a destination in mind before you set off on a road trip.
Yeah, I get it. So you don't get lost in a sea of data.
Exactly. And those ETL tools we talked about, those are essential for streamlining the data integration process. Saves you a ton of time and headaches down the road.
Right. And then there's data quality. Always got to make sure your data is clean and accurate.
Absolutely. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Yeah.
Even with the fanciest data warehouse, if your data is bad, your insights will be too.
So true. Okay. I think we've laid a pretty good foundation for understanding data warehouses. But now I'm really curious about these tabular cubes our source keeps mentioning. They sound kind of magical, like some secret weapon for data analysis.
They kind of are. Tabular cubes are like turbocharging your data warehouse. They give you the ability to analyze data super fast from all these different angles.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I'm having a hard time picturing it. How does it actually work?
Imagine you have this giant data cube, right?
Hmm.
And you can slice and dice it any way you want. Look at sales by region, by product over time, all at the same time.
So it's like having a multidimensional view of your data.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so powerful for uncovering insights that you might not see otherwise.
Okay, my mind is starting to wrap around this giant data cube idea.
Yeah.
But what makes tabular cubes so special? Like what makes them so fast and efficient?
One of the key things is columnar storage. Unlike traditional databases, which store data row by row, tabular cubes store it in columns.
Okay. I don't get it. How does that make a difference?
Well, think about it. When you're analyzing data, you're usually looking for trends or patterns across a lot of different data points. With columnar storage, all the data for a particular column is grouped together, so it's way faster to retrieve and process.
Ah, so it's like if you're looking for a specific ingredient in a recipe book, it's much faster if all the ingredients are listed in one column instead of scattered throughout the book.
Exactly. It's a much more efficient way to organize the data for analysis.
That's a great analogy. So columnar storage makes things faster. Are there any other tricks up the tabular cube sleeve?
Oh, yeah, definitely. To make things even faster, tabular cubes often use in-memory processing.
What does that mean?
It means the data is loaded into the computer's RAM, which is super fast, so you get almost instantaneous access to the data.
So no more waiting around for the data to load.
Exactly. It's like having all the information you need right at your fingertips.
That's awesome. But all this sounds pretty technical. Are tabular cubes only for, like, data scientists or people who are really good with computers?
Mm.
Can a regular person like me, who's okay with spreadsheets but not a programmer, even use these things?
That's a great thing about tabular cubes. They're actually designed to be pretty user-friendly, even for non-technical folks. And they use a query language called DAX, which is very similar to Excel formulas. So if you can handle a spreadsheet, you can probably handle DAX.
Oh, okay. That's a relief. I don't have to learn a whole new programming language.
Yeah.
Speaking of accessibility, our source mentions tabular cubes being cloud ready. What does that mean?
It means you can use tabular cubes with modern cloud platforms like Azure Analysis Services.
And what's the advantage of that?
Well, it gives you all the benefits of cloud computing, like scalability, flexibility, and pay-as-you-go pricing, so you don't have to invest in a ton of expensive hardware upfront.
So it makes it more accessible to smaller companies or even individuals who want to use these powerful tools.
Exactly.
Okay, so tabular cubes sound pretty amazing. Fast, efficient, user-friendly, cloud-ready. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. How do you actually create one of these things? Is it as simple as waving a magic wand?
Ha, I wish. It's a bit more involved than that, but it is a structured process. Our source breaks it down into a few key steps. First, you need to install SQL Server Analysis Services, or SSAS for short. That's the software platform for creating and managing tabular cubes.
Got it. So that's the foundation. Then what?
Then you create a new tabular project using SQL Server Data Tools, or SSDT. It's kind of like setting up your workshop.
Okay, tools are ready. What's next?
Next, you connect to your data sources. This could be anything: a SQL Server database, an Excel file, data from the cloud. Basically, you import all the relevant data that you'll need for your analysis.
All right, so we've got our data. What do we do with it?
Now comes the fun part: designing the model. This is where you define the dimensions of your data cube. You know how you'll slice and dice it to uncover insights. You create calculated columns, measures, hierarchies, basically defining the structure for your analysis.
So we're setting up the different ways we'll be able to look at the data.
Exactly. Once you've designed your model, you process it, which basically means building and deploying it to the SaaS server, and boom, your tabular cube is ready to go.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of steps, but I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
Can you give us a real-world example, maybe something from our source material, to help illustrate how this might work in practice? I think that would really help solidify the concept.
Sure. Let's say you're a business owner and you want to analyze your sales data. You've got data on your products, your regions, the dates of your sales, and the sales amounts.
Okay, standard stuff.
Right. You could create a tabular cube that lets you see which products are selling best in each region, how sales are trending over time, and even compare sales to, say, your marketing campaigns. You could drill down into specific regions or product categories or time periods to get a really granular understanding of your sales performance, and all of this, like, instantly.
Wow, so it's like having a superpowered spreadsheet that lets you analyze your data from every angle imaginable.
That's a good way to put it.
I can see how this would be incredibly valuable for any business, really. But let's step back for a second and think about our listener. We've thrown a lot of information at them today about data warehouses and these tabular cubes. How does all of this connect back to their everyday lives? Are these just tools for big companies with tons of data and dedicated IT teams?
Not at all. I mean, even if you're like a small business owner, a freelancer, or just someone who wants to understand their personal finances, the principles are still valuable.
So it's not about the size of your data, it's how you use it.
Right, exactly. It's about taking the data you have, organizing it, and then using it to answer questions and make those smarter decisions.
And with cloud computing, it's more accessible than ever, right? You don't need a whole IT department to get started.
Exactly. Cloud-based solutions, like Azure Analysis Services, they let you dive right in without breaking the bank.
That's great. So it makes these tools available to basically everyone. So for our listeners out there, if they're feeling a bit overwhelmed but still intrigued, what's like the one key takeaway you'd want them to remember?
That's a good question. I'd say data is everywhere, right? It's valuable. But data by itself, it's just raw material.
Okay.
It's what you do with it that matters.
Right.
Data warehousing and tabular cubes give you the tools to make sense of it all, transform that data into insights that can help you make better decisions, solve problems, and ultimately achieve your goals.
I like that. It's not about becoming a data expert. It's about using data to your advantage.
Exactly.
Okay, so one last question for you and for our listeners out there.
Yeah.
What data do you have right now that could be better understood using these techniques? What hidden insights are maybe lurking in your spreadsheets, your databases, or even just like in your notes app, right?
That's the question I want everyone listening to ask themselves. It could be anything, like you said, analyzing your website traffic, understanding your spending habits, even tracking the progress of a personal project.
It's all about asking the right questions.
Exactly. The beauty of data is that it's all around us, just waiting to be explored.
And with the right tools, those explorations can lead to some really amazing discoveries. So to everyone listening, we encourage you, take that first step, dive into your data, ask those questions, and see what you can uncover. And that wraps up our deep dive into data warehouses and tabular cubes. Thanks for joining us.